Welcome back to another episode of the Multifamily Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Rucker, co-founder of Black Cedar Investments and coach here at the Multifamily Mindset. If you're just joining us, welcome aboard. We're so excited to have you part of our growing community. And to give you guys a quick rundown, every Tuesday we do interviews with students from the MFM network. Then on Thursdays, our mindset mentor, my friend Dallas Pruitt, comes on and unpacks those mindset principles from these interviews, from these stories. And then on Wednesdays are reserved for Tyler Devereaux, the founder of the Multifamily Mindset, for his podcast called Own the Outcome, where he interviews high-level individuals and into their stories and impact as well. So whether you're here for the wealth of knowledge, the inspiring stories, or the expert insights, you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Today is going to be an awesome episode. I'm joined by the partners, Ryan and Lucas of TR Capital Partners. Guys, thank you so much for taking your time today to jump on. I'm so excited to jump into your guys' story and just share that with everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Zach. Good to be here.
Yep, super excited to be here.
Yeah, so with that, let's dive into who you guys are. You know, who is Ryan, who's Lucas? Whoever wants to go first. Ryan, how about you go first, and then go Lucas.
Yeah, so I've always been, kind of a guy who's been involved in investing, finance world, kind of what we caught that bug young. So I started my career right out of college in the financial services world, doing insurance, fixed income, equities, stuff like that with a bunch of different types of investors. Then I found out that wasn't something I liked to do. It wasn't really for me. So I transitioned to a more of an analyst role, pretty much analyzing investments, finding suitable needs for certain investors, and then kind of, filling that box that they needed. So that was with the New York Stock Exchange. And that was all before finding my journey in the real estate world with Lucas here. And we go back till we were 7, 8 years old. And we started investing, triplexes, duplexes, and kind of going the typical route, becoming landlords. And quickly found out that it's all the headaches that you hear and the horror stories they do come true. We might have been a little naive at the beginning, thinking they wouldn't happen to us, but it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And about a year after that, we started experiencing the bad tenants, the evictions, the maintenance calls. And that's when we transitioned to syndications through TR Capital Partners to help investors that that aren't investing in real estate because of those issues or have experienced those same problems. And that way we can provide the benefits of real estate, like passive income, capital growth, and the tax benefits without the hassles of being the landlord.
Beautifully said. I summed it up perfectly.
He's got the elevator pitch down. He's got it down. Love that.
It's like you've done this before. Nicely done. I guess touching on that. So I'm Lucas. I'm the better half of TR Capital Partners. Right out of college, I got into sales, and I'm been in a sales position ever since. And I found a passion with talking with people and helping people, but through working in corporate America, I found that fulfillment just wasn't there by the normal 9 to 5. And I was always, an entrepreneur trying to figure out a way out. Luckily, I had a great relationship with Ryan. We started partnering with investing in multifamily, but we were doing it, like Ryan said, with the onesie twosies, the 2 families, the 3 families, and our own capital. And we knew there had to be another way, a better way. And that's when we stumbled upon the multifamily mindset. And that was the bridge that kind of took us from where we were to where we needed to be. And that's exactly why we're here today.
Yeah, I love that. So let's dive into a little bit of like when you guys got into that. Ryan, you touched on it. You started running into these issues. So you guys started buying, some duplexes, triplexes together. And I guess run us through a little bit more details. Like what happened? Was it going well? You guys were getting some good income in. How did that kind of play out?
Yeah, I'd love to touch on this. This is actually my favorite part to talk about. So it's 2020, it's COVID. Ryan and I are both 28 right now. So, subtract 4 years. We trying to figure out a way out of living with our parents. Most of our friends were at home. We were at home with our parents, and we were like, hey, let's figure something out. Ryan had the idea of like, you know what, let's look into real estate investing. Let's buy a house, let's be a landlord. And we would meet virtually and in person to just like educate ourselves on the topic. And we ended up purchasing our first property in the beginning of 2021. It was a triplex that we house hacked. And it was an awesome feeling. We lived in the first unit. We rented out the 2 units above us. So, we were living pretty much for free with a little bit of income coming in. But, the house was sponsored off of YouTube tutorials. I bought that house with a hammer to my name. So we were finding friends who were contractors and just doing it all ourselves. And while we lived in that property, being a landlord, that wasn't a problem. I mean, some headaches popped up, but it's like, you know what? It's my own house. I'm living here. I'm taking care of it. That's fine. It's when we tried to scale and bought that second property and we lived in that duplex the second time. Well, now we're not living in that first property anymore. We're still house hacking, but that's when those landlord horror stories started coming, right? It's a Saturday night and we need to get a plumber over there or an electrician over there, right? Like anything bad that would happen at the worst possible times. And that's how we knew, being a landlord, for a lack of better word, sucks, right?
Yeah.
And being landlord, that obligation, that title is what deters people to not invest in real estate. But we knew firsthand all the benefits that it gave us. And people were asking us, like, how can they do it? And it's like, well, I mean, we took a really long way to get here. There's definitely a better way that you can do it. And through syndications is what we found. You get all of the benefits of the passive income, the equity, the tax benefits, but you get none of that headaches. When you own the multifamily, there's nothing passive about it. You can say it's passive income, right? But you're still in charge of everything. So it was really awesome to educate ourselves, be a part of this program to really teach us, there is a better way out there. And that's how Ryan and I kind of got on our voyage and has been taking off ever since.
Yeah, just to touch on that too, I think it comes back to education. At first, like we kind of just dove right in. We didn't exactly, look at a ton of different options. We just thought this was the only way for us to actively be doing it, and that's why we dove in that way. Obviously, the passive income isn't really passive. Essentially, if you scale up big enough with triplexes and duplexes and you're self-managing, it becomes almost like another job. So you're essentially the thing we tried to do, which was get out of our W-2. We're just, spending more time creating another one. So that was another reason that we ended up switching over to syndications. Plus, it's far easier to scale. It's the risk mitigation side of things is a lot easier. You can have a lot more upside with a lot less downside. And the time you spend managing tenants and dealing with all those headaches is just not worth it after a while. And that's when we kind of stepped back and reevaluated our initial goals, which was to fast track retirement and get our time back. And that's when we switched paths and realized that those two things weren't really aligning on what we were currently doing.
Yeah. I love that. And the fact that you guys you took that initiative, self-educate, YouTube videos, podcast, right? I'm right there with you guys because my story is a little bit similar. Like mine first was a triplex as well, house hacked and going through that process. Didn't like the tenants in there, but I was too much of a nice guy at the time. And just ended up getting out of it and selling it at some point and moving on. But with that, same kind of situation. But you guys took that initiative, right? YouTube videos. I know that I was there, did that. But then it led to a point where you hit that roadblock, right? It wasn't enough until I'm sure it's probably a YouTube video popped up or ad, and it was probably Tyler with the multifamily mindset and then jumping into the workshop. So give us a little rundown of you guys attending the workshop. How was that? How did that change things for you guys?
Yeah, I'll let Lucas touch on that because it all started with him scrolling through Instagram one night, and so this was all his idea to start.
Yeah, so Ryan and I, being roommates, living in that triplex, we're living in a duplex at this point, and this is at the peak of all of our problems. Where we had this business plan brought out, we spent hours of trying to figure it out, but like the trade-off just wasn't there. And Ryan's not on social media at this point. He decided to get off social media. So I'm late night just scrolling the web, and then this guy named Tyler Devereaux popped up in my timeline. And I get these ads all the time, right? But for whatever reason, this one stood out to me. And I just clicked into it a little bit. It was a free workshop. The workshop was in the city that we bought our triplex in. And I was like, hey, this can't hurt us, Ryan. Let's go check this out. He was like, yeah, let's go do it, right? So we go down there. And we go to the first free day, and we're getting all this education, and it's quick hitting stuff, right? We're like, we know like this is just the skin or the icing on the cake, but like we don't know what the batter is. And it's like, guys, got to come to the 3-day workshop. And there's such a pivotal moment in this workshop. I remember looking at Ryan and just realizing this day is going to be the day that changes our lives. And we were able to go to that workshop and just take in all that information, all the knowledge, all the education, the resources. And we're like, we now know what we were missing, right? But you don't know what you don't know. And we didn't know any of this stuff, right? Syndications is a term I've never heard of. Most people out there don't, right? So it was such a cool moment. Like looking back, like just having that conversation with Ryan, like, hey, if you're in, I'm in, right? Like, let's do it. We're both go-getters. We both take responsibility. We both are just take now people. And we haven't looked back since. It's been such a blessing just to be a part of the community and learning everything. The learning part and the hands-on stuff's fun, but just the networking and the providing value to people, and whether it's new time students or older students or people who are investors, right? It's just such an awesome voyage. But like that workshop was just such a pivotal point in our lives where it's like that was the bridge to get us to where we were to where we needed to be.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so cool. I mean, and you guys are young, 27 going through the workshop. It's been about a year. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
27, and then looking at each other and just like, yeah, this is going to change our lives. And to see where you guys are at, even just 1 year into this journey, I mean, it's pretty cool. So touch on that. Like, where are you guys at right now? And then we can dive in a little bit to what you guys have been up to this past year. So where are you guys at today?
Yeah, I think we kind of had a little bit of a roundabout journey the first, 4 or 5 months. We were kind of trying to do, it was just us two on our team. We're trying to do everything as far as acquisitions, raising capital. And this is when we're just getting started, right? So we didn't have the resources or the know-how to really take down all the legs of the GP side of things. So that's when we kind of shifted our focus maybe about 8 months ago to strictly investor relations. And we kind of just dove all in. So it kind of goes back to our motto, which is go deep, not wide. We don't want to, overextend ourselves. We want to be great at one thing and then expand from there, repeat, and keep that process going. So from there, we decided to just do strictly investor relations. So we're raising capital, dealing with investors on a daily basis, giving them updates, sending out those distributions that the investors love. And since then, about a year ago, I guess really 8 months ago, since we started raising, we've been a co-GP in about 528 doors across 4 different projects and have about 2 more in the works right now. And we're just really dialing in that piece of the puzzle. I think that's where we like to be, is developing those relationships, talking to people, really educating people on this investment vehicle. Because like we said before, we've been through all the bad things that people think about with real estate, and there's a better way that we didn't know about that we can provide now to people, so they can just avoid all those learning curves that we had to go through.
Yeah, that's awesome. So 500 plus units in the last 8 months. 4 projects, got a couple more in the works. Like, you guys are cruising. The momentum's going. You said something that's really important that I want our listeners to hear, is you guys try to do it all. Right? You try to do acquisitions, investor relations, all that. And there's a lot of work. And you guys realize that. You're right into that. There's a lot of work to this business. And so you guys quickly found that out and took a step back. So I guess I want you guys to dive in a little bit more of like that thought process then, and how you guys made that pivot, because I think that's a very important pivot that you guys made that a lot of people get stuck in, and they don't ever take that pivot, or they take longer to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the big thing for us is we're big proponents of there's no reason to reinvent the wheel. So there's so many successful people out there who have done what we're trying to do. So if you can figure out what they're doing, just do it. And that was kind of the light bulb for us. We're like, hey, Eric Chatterton and Gibby's Capital, this is what they're doing, right? This is what Grant Cardone's doing, right? So we subscribe to all these different real estate gurus and just figure it out, like, what is it that they're doing and why is it working? And then we realize if it's a relationship business, all we have is our brand. We don't want to be okay at a little bit of everything. We want to be really, really good at one thing and grow from there. We want to be an expert in one instead of a jack of all trades, right? So we realized that the best thing that I'm skilled at, and Ryan's really good with numbers, but combined, we're really good at communication. And we realized communication with investor relations and educating people on this aspect is something that will be able to get us on more deals and work with more successful people. So that was our pivot. Instead of trying to do everything, we just said, you know what, let's just take on the role of broadcasting ourselves out there to the public, mostly on social media, as just real estate educators, right? Real estate is so vague, but syndication specifically for a passive way of income and living and producing different streams of income is something that people don't know about. And going back to what I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. So Ryan and I utilize our network and our website as just educational resources for people to dive into more of what real estate syndication is, right? What is a GP? What is an LP? What do life cycles look like? And then there's resources for them like webinars we've done and ebooks that we've created and just so many different options for them to just learn more about it. Because it's a relationship game. You have to know, like, and trust someone to want to work with them. So we want to put in the effort to get them to know, like, and trust us. And from there, we can grow our network and work with so many different options instead of just kind of burying ourselves, trying to do everything, getting bogged down and just losing all momentum. So, it's kind of just being a part of that mindset of just like, hey, let's just be really, really good at one thing and take it from there. And we decided that investor relations was the best suited the business adventure for us.
I think going off of that too, to become an expert at really anything, you need your reps. Like, you need repetition. And if we're underwriting deals together, we're talking to brokers together, we're talking to investors together, it becomes more of a slow process. We realize we're getting less repetitions in on the things we need that really matter will drive our business. So since we focus just on investor relations now, we're having, several calls a day with investors. And obviously at first they were sloppy. They were a little, they weren't exactly guided to come in the right direction. I'm sure you've been through the same thing. But eventually the kinks come out and you can kind of just those repetition, figure out how to, guide the conversation, what to look for, what the questions to ask. And that's another thing that really helped, was just getting those reps in. And that's kind of how we started becoming a little more tuned in to what our processes will be, instead of, throwing things at a wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah, I can confidently say we've come a long way from those first calls. It's funny seeing where you were before to where we are now. And you're like, it's such a short amount of time, but at the same time, it seemed like that was forever ago. And just funny, those reps, it's like, wow, this actually repetition does make you a lot better. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I think that's huge. To say that, right? Repetition, but it doesn't mean you weren't getting reps, right? Ryan, you mentioned that you weren't getting. Sorry, I'm stuttering on my words here. It wasn't like you weren't getting reps by doing other things, but it was a lot slower, and so it's taking a lot longer to get the underwriting practice and the broker calls and how you're talking to sponsors and to find the right deal. Like it was a little bit slower process. You guys realized that, you put a stop on it and said, let's just take one route and let's get really good at that one piece. And that was investor relations, which is very powerful because you mentioned something earlier, Lucas, of connecting with those that are doing the business, right? And putting yourself in the same room as those individuals that are being successful. And it's raising money and having that resource is valuable for anyone in this business. Even Grant Cardone, he needs people to bring him money. And so the piece that you brought in of let's focus on that, and that's going to get our foot in the door with all these other people that are doing deals. And then at that point, I want you guys kind of answer this next piece of, do you guys see yourself expanding to these other areas, and what's that timeline maybe look like? Now that you guys have done, 4 deals and you got a couple more in the works, what's that timeline? Are you looking to transition and maybe, Ryan, you start doing more underwriting, or is it, hey, we're going to keep growing this and we found some really great partners that are going to keep feeding us deals and we're just going to keep going? What does that look like? But I just wanted to highlight that for our listeners of that's really key. Like, you guys put yourself, and I'm sure have built really good relationships with these high level individuals that are constantly doing deals. And now you get to learn from them on, okay, maybe you can ask some questions. How did you source this deal? How'd you find it? how are you operating this deal? Okay, let me sit in on these calls. Let me learn while doing this, while I provided a piece to that maybe you wouldn't have had the opportunity if you focused on trying to do all of it.
Yeah, I think that, well, knowing that the GP team, I mean, GP is like a team sport, right? Everyone has the role. Me and Lucas grew up playing sports. Everyone has a position on the team. And I think that in order for us to really grow the way we want to in the foreseeable future, we're going to be focusing on that one position, that one role. We have, relationships with people that are doing the other roles, and we've consistently done multiple deals with them. And we seem to be a great GP team altogether. So I just think for the foreseeable future, if we can, consistently do deals with those same people, it creates a stronger dynamic on the team side, which helps us communicate with investors better. We're not have our hands in a bunch of different buckets with different GP teams and different, investor relations and whatever it might be. Just makes everything a lot easier, a little more streamlined. And recently we've been doing deals in Massachusetts, which is where we're from. So we can actually go see people in person, shake hands, have a drink, have a lunch, as opposed to doing one across the country, which we've done in the past, where we've never actually really got to meet the GP teams. You have those introductions, but you never see them on a consistent basis, so the relationship isn't really as strong. So I think, Lucas could probably agree that for the foreseeable future, our goal is to really stick on the investor relations and then eventually build up our book enough where we can also co-sponsor on deals. And our goal is to be about 3 years out from co-sponsoring on some of these smaller deals, like 5 million and under.
Yeah, no, you hit the nail on the head there. I want to touch on also, making a local team for us is going to go a long way. Like Ryan said, we've invested in Minneapolis. We're from Boston. We've invested in Louisiana. But like seeing those properties, seeing those GP members, in person, that doesn't really happen. Maybe once or twice a year, but like we're not next to each other. Being able to purchase properties that meet all the metrics that are going to be a great deal and forming this really good team around it, well, now we're actually able to work with these teams and see the property, go through the due diligence process. So now we're growing that way, where we're more hands-on in the deal as well. And it's really important to map out your goals. So for the next 12 to 18 months, we're going to be heavily focused on investor relations and working on taking down some serious deals in the Massachusetts area. But I would say, from a 2 to 3 to 4 year time frame of us definitely wanting to co-sponsor deals, get more heavily involved and grow that way. Ryan and I both have our W-2s right now, but we're putting ourselves in a position where we can see the light at the end of the tunnel, where multifamily syndication, that's fulfilling for me. Working with investors and tenants, benefiting both lives of the deal, like that's what matters to me instead of working for corporate America. But obviously I have bills to pay, right? But it's awesome to see the progress we've made to, like, at one point we didn't see a way out. Now we see what we need to do. We've mapped out our goals. We've done our budgeting. We realize the exact number we need to be able to be full time in this. And then we already know how much time we put into this while juggling a 9 to 5. So now just imagining 9 to 5, it's all this. Well, there's a lot of growth that's going to go there, where we can create more of a team, take on more roles, responsibilities. But that goes into saying, like, you have to map that stuff out, right? You can't just shoot in the dark and be like, yeah, 5 years I'll be good, right? You can, but is that going to be realistic? What steps are you putting in place to reach those goals? And that's something Ryan and I have done. And like I said, seeing that light at the end of the tunnel is a really exciting thing. Like, that just gives you that fire in the morning to, like, all right, it's go time. Here we go.
Yeah, I think feeding off that too, a big reason that we want to go full time, obviously we want to get out of the corporate world. It's not fulfilling to us, but just to have more control over both our time and finances. Like, I've seen firsthand from family members that have gotten laid off after working with, a big corporation for 20, 25 years. And all they do is give you a severance package and, tell you to go, essentially. Then all of a sudden you have no more income. So if we can, build up our investment portfolio where we're at least being able to pay for our living expenses with that passive income, then we're essentially, work optional or financially free, whatever you want to, however you want to word it. And we're not reliant on any external factors actually impacting our lives in a serious matter. And seeing that firsthand, that was the reason I initially got involved in the triplexes and duplexes. And now obviously scaling onto a larger level, but it's really just to have more control over your lifestyle and not have to rely on external things to drive your success, or, even just be comfortable in life.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a big piece to it. So I'm going to ask you guys this, how much time do you spend right now, right? You still have your W-2s. There's a lot of work that goes into this business, right? It is a business that you're trying to run and start and grow. How much time do you guys put into this on a weekly basis?
Yeah, so our schedules dictate a little bit of a difference in the amount of time we're able to put in. So I work for the parent company of the stock exchange still. So really my mornings and my afternoons are packed. I can't really do much. But during the middle of the day, I spend as many hours as I possibly can talking to people, doing marketing on social media, relaying messages to investors, nurturing those relationships. And I'm also getting up in the morning, 5 a.m. and doing stuff before work starts, plus doing stuff after work starts. I mean, on average, it's like adding another 40 hours a week to my time. And the thing is, it doesn't feel like that. It's fulfilling to the point where I actually enjoy doing it. I look forward to adding that extra time to my schedule. It's just a shame that it's most of my time is taken up by something that's not fulfilling right now, but that'll change quickly. But we're putting pretty much every hour that we're not working our day jobs, we're immersed in, whether it's talking to each other on, outlining our next webinar or new marketing tactics or, different deals we're going over. We're always talking about it, always texting about it. And that's kind of just always on the top of mind for us, I think.
Yeah, and now that Ron and I were roommates for 3.5 years, so now that we're living with our significant others, it's not as easy as just going to the living room and giving somebody an update. That we definitely are, communication's key. With my 9 to 5, I'm in sales, so I have a pretty demanding schedule. So I work from like 6 to 8 in the morning on social media, reaching out on LinkedIn, having conversations, planning out what's going to happen that day. I scatter meetings throughout the day for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then from like 5:30 to 10 p.m., it's all TR Capital Partners. And it's a lot of work, but it's like the sacrifice and the trade-off is very worth it for me. I'm lucky that I have really supportive girlfriend and friends in my family, or friends and family in my life that understand, I'm making sacrifices right now because I'm trying to put myself in a better situation. And don't get me wrong, there are sacrifices that come with trying to be successful with such a demanding lifestyle right now. But it's all for the betterment, and it enabled me to turn my penny friends and substitute them with quarters. Right, I have a stronger circle now. I have more focus in my life now, and it's just because I'm crazy busy right now doesn't mean that there's any hardships that I'm not facing. It's a pretty awesome thing that's going on.
Yeah, it's like the power to know, right? You intentionally you schedule your time a lot better to the point where if you're saying no to going out the weekend or hanging out for this or that, it's nothing personal. I just have something else I'm trying to drive towards. And thankfully, we have friends that understand that, which helps a lot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's, I love that you mentioned that it helps you schedule more. That you're being very purposeful with your time because there's a lot of time that goes into having a full-time job while trying to build a business. Anyone that's had to build a business out there, like that's a lot of work. It does take essentially 2 full-time jobs, which requires you to be very efficient in your time. So you're scheduling your time out. And then when you do have free time, you're very purposeful with that, right? You probably want to spend it with your significant other versus going and just hanging out, but going out for the night or something. So those are all big factors into being effective in running a business and in syndications and getting that going. And I love how you guys see the vision, right? You sit down, you're looking at what can I accomplish in the next 12 to 18 months? What do we need to focus on? Then eliminating distractions. Now, you guys are eliminating those distractions. One, even just within your business, hey, this is what we're going to focus on. We're going to get really good at investor relations, we're good at our marketing, and we're going to get a part of lots of deals next 12 to 18 months. We're not going to worry about underwriting new opportunities as of right now. It's not the focus. I'm sure, Ryan, one comes across your desk and you get tempted by it, and you might do it every now and then. But the focus is there for the most part, and you're focusing on your ultimate goal for the next 12 to 18 months. And then you reassess, right? You reassess every so often. At least for my partners and I, it's every 90 days. We're reassessing, okay, where are we at? And keeping, making sure we're on the same page in that sense. So with that, I kind of want to jump into what you guys see for the next, 12 to 18 months, like how I want to go into our think bigger questions, because I think you guys will bring in a lot more value into this, as well as how do you choose to think bigger? You have these goals. You've already been a part of 500 units, 4 deals, you got a couple more in the works, goal for next 12 to 18 months, continue to expand it. How do you choose to think bigger?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes back to the whole, everything that's taught in the MFM program as far as the mindset stuff goes. I mean, I've always been a big reader. You can see my books in the background here. I used to read like a book a week, a book every 2 weeks, and all of it was mindset and abundance and, thinking the right way. The main thing I've learned is you can really only grow to the point where you think you can. So at first, when me and Lucas are doing triplexes and duplexes, yes, we didn't have the education for the syndication stuff to expose ourselves to it, but we didn't really think we could, do it any other way. So we saw these people, you drive by those apartment complexes on the highway, thousands of units, there must be some rich guy owns these or whatever it is. No, it's people like us. We didn't think that was possible at the time. The second we made that shift, and thankfully MFM, those 3 days and the 1 day helped us a lot to make that impact on us mentally. It just changes your whole environment, changes how you think, changes your mindset, and just seeing where we went in the past 8 months has been insane. And I never thought I'd even be here. We're not even close to where we want to be. And then hearing stories from other people inside the program as well, the stars of the program like Eric and DJ and all those guys, they were in the same situation we are, or worse. And they managed to grow their business so big that that's what they do full time. That's kind of their, that supports their kids, their wives, everything. And that's something that we're like, okay, well, if they can do it, we can do it. It's not like some guy seeing social media that you kind of put on a pedestal. Like, no, this is a person I've talked to face to face, and I realize like it doesn't take someone special to really do these things. It just takes a lot of action and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations.
Yeah, Ryan, you took the words right out of my mouth. I would just touch on the fact that you don't know what you don't know. I think there's a stat out there that's, don't quote me on this, but it's roughly like 70% of people after college don't continue to educate themselves. And with real estate syndications and people in MFM and just in real estate in general, if you think you're just a really good underwriter or you're a really good acquisitioner, right, and like that's the role you want to take on, well, it's important to understand that, hey, that's the role you're going to take on, but you're still going to be operating a business. And when it comes to business, you need to know marketing, you need to know sales, you need to know communication. And it comes back to, you don't know what you don't know. So the continuous education is just the biggest aspect that has brought us the success that we've had. It's a lot of trial and error, because again, you don't know what you don't know, but you learn from those mistakes. You continue putting yourselves in positions to learn and to grow. And that is the key, is just to continuously evolve in all different aspects. Like if you have a mindset issue, work on a mindset issue. If you have a communication issue, figure out resources to improve upon that, because you ultimately want to create the best business as possible.
Yeah, I love both of those answers, because it's just continually, how do you think bigger is continually to push the ceiling up and to push yourself to learn more. And as you learn more, you open the doors to the possibilities. So you're really opening yourself to what you can accomplish that you never knew. You don't know what you don't know. I love you've said that multiple times today, and it's so true. Like, it can't be more true than that. Awesome. So how do you guys define success? Oh, go ahead, Ryan.
Kind of go to one more thing too. I think a lot of it has to do with your environment too, who you're hanging out with, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've both been in environments where there was no path to growth, to abundance thinking. It was just, you go to your job, you come home, you play video games, do whatever, watch sports, and then go to bed, repeat. Then when we were living together, thankfully, we both kind of shifted that completely. So I think being roommates pushed us to go past that typical, traditional thinking too, which helps a lot. So you got to surround yourself with people that, one, are willing to grow, and two, have been there and done that, and then learn from them and apply those lessons too. So that will definitely catalyze your growth.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, people get stuck in that just routine. Mm-hmm. Get up, go to work, come home, hang out, just repeat it. That's the game of life. It's like, no, the game of life is challenging, and you challenge yourself every day to get better because your potential is unlimited. Okay, now next question. How do you define success?
Yeah, I have a very simple definition of success, I think, and it's simply just progress. So obviously, we have an end goal where we kind of have a vision of where we want to be. That's the big picture, we'll call it. But obviously, there's not one leap that's going to get you there. So you set progress points or checkpoints, I guess we'll say throughout the your timeline. For example, a few years ago, I was really out of shape, so my goal was to get in shape, and I just took action and started going to the gym. Now it's become almost ingrained. Like I feel guilty if I don't go. So it's just part of my routine now. So I guess growing your habits, making them more productive, and then hitting those checkpoints along the way. So I guess success is simply just, keeping the promises you made to yourself. I guess is the simple way to put it.
Yeah, I'm starting to realize more and more why we're business partners, because Ryan just keeps taking things right off right now.
You spend too much time together.
I guess so, right? I guess just to add to that is, people define success in so many different ways. For me, another quote that I love, by the way, big quote guy. Another quote I love is just be 1% better today than you were yesterday. And just taking little victories here and there, that's success, right? If you thought that you were gonna talk to 4 potential investors today, and you did that, and you even added in a 5th, nothing came from that, but your mindset, it told you to improve. That's success. And if you just stack up these little victories along the way, like Ryan said, like, I'm going to go to the gym today. You wake up in the first thought process is, I could totally go back to bed and get another hour of sleep. But you convince yourself to get up, get out of bed and do the damn thing. And now you're more motivated than ever. And you just do little actions throughout the day that when you go to bed at night, you're proud of yourself. You realize you put in that work. And then just we're creatures of habit, continuing to do that. That is success. Just being a better version, the best version of yourself, to put yourself in the best position you can be in. Stacking little victories is the best way to do it, and that's my success.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. For me, it's, and not to take away and try to answer this question myself, but for me, it's your potential, right? And you got to be reaching for that potential. We all have a purpose here, a greater purpose than we even realize, and it's continuing to push yourself to reach that potential. And if you do that on a daily basis, the 1% better every day, you're gonna be successful in whatever you define success is in that. Fall in love with the journey, like Dallas always says. Fall in love with the process, because that's the joy of this, is the journey. It's not the end goal. The end goal probably initially for you guys, it never was actually to do a deal. A lot of people jump into this program, their goal is they want to do a deal. They get to the deal, you're not satisfied once you just do a deal. There's just, okay, we did one, but where's the next one? We got to do more, because you guys realize your end goal is continuing to progress, and it's going to continue to move forward. And that's the epitome of all this, is continue to push the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so last question is, what is the best advice you can give any new multifamily investor student?
Yeah, I'd say take advantage of the network for sure. Lucas and I started off really quickly just hammering away at networking with the sponsors, people who've been experienced in this, whether it's talking to the strategist at the 3-day event or sponsors within the Facebook group, whatever it might be. And that's actually how we got our first deal. We met with a sponsor. He actually referred us to another sponsor who was outside of MFM that needed help with capital. We had no investors or anything at this point, but we jumped on the deal. Thankfully, we were able to bring in and get a GP share. And that just comes to I guess 2 things: take action and network with people, and just apply the lessons you learn along the way. Because as Lucas mentioned before, there's a playbook to everything. So don't reinvent the wheel. Ask people how they've gotten to where they're at, and literally apply those lessons that they tell you. And so I would say take action and take advantage of the new environment, the new network you're going to be a part of.
Beautifully said, Ryan. Again.
We should have switched it. Lucas, you should have went first, and then
I know. What I'll add to that is, I guess, a story too. So Ryan and I, we went to Peak Partnership this year, and there was a On the second day, there was an event for people in MFM and at the workshop that are 28 years and younger. And we separated this group into people who have done deals and who haven't done deals. And it was pretty much just, how did you guys do that, right? Younger people who are younger students who are trying to get into their deals. And if they look at it from, an outside perspective, you'll just see, 5 or 6 groups at this event standing up saying, I got a deal. But what my key takeaway from that event was, sure, that group got a deal, we got a deal, that group got a deal, but every single person got that deal a different way. My story is completely different than another group's story. And that was a key takeaway for me. There isn't a right or wrong way to do it. The overall goal is to get a deal, but you can get a deal in so many different ways. The number one thing or way to do it is to take action. Ryan and I, we got on our first deal, like he just said, but we did that because we failed at our very first deal. Nobody knows that part, right? We had a deal in hand that fell through where we lost earnest money deposit, and we could have taken that step back and said, dang, this sucks. Why did we do that? Why did we put ourselves in this position? Instead, we continued to network, and through our networking, we were able to connect with a sponsor who saw potential in us, thank God, connect us to another sponsor, and built a relationship on it. But that would have never have happened if we didn't fail on our first deal. So we had that fork in the road. Do we just give up and go back to the onesie twosie stuff, or do we learn from this and grow from it? And it wasn't even a conversation we had out loud. We just knew, okay, we're going for it, right? And that's the biggest takeaway. My biggest advice for people is to continue to network, to understand each person's story is different. Your story is going to be completely different than that person's story. But regardless, put in the work. Your outcome is going to be completely dependent on the work you put into it. And if you're passionate about it, good things will happen.
Yeah, I'm so glad you shared that story, because I had that same thought as Ryan was talking, that you guys should share that. And it's so cool because, yeah, you all did a deal, but there's so many ways to do it. Those that have listened to this podcast, you've heard Cooper McCoy and Mike Buchanan's story, right? I think you mentioned they're probably there in that group at Peak Partnership as well, and their story, right? And everyone has a different path to doing deals, but the way I sum it up, and it kind of comes back to this almost every time, is you network with people, so you build those relationships, and you take massive action. You do those two things, you're gonna find a deal, or you're gonna do deals. But with that, you guys highlighted a lot of key pieces there that I want to kind of recap. Is take a step back sometimes and see where are the roadblocks you're running into. How can you maybe readjust? How can you pivot and maybe reorganize what you guys do? Get out of your comfort zone a little bit, maybe, and try something and dial it in. Right? Like, I'm sure, Ryan, it was maybe a little bit difficult to go from underwriting deals to I gotta go full investor relations, because I know that was difficult for me and my group, and I had some pushback on that a little bit, because I love doing the underwriting, I love the numbers, I love the spreadsheets, but the impact that's created for your guys' group and the momentum is you're going so much faster now. So I think that's a huge recap and lesson I learned, is you got to pivot. And I'm sure you guys are going to run into more pivots. And every time you have to make a new pivot and change in the direction where you're going. However, it speaks volume to just 4 months within, you guys made that pivot with that. So that's a huge piece and lesson I took away from this, networking with people to find deals, take massive action. It's always lessons learned. But with this, there's also challenges, there's struggles. You sacrifice things, but be willing to take those sacrifices now, because the reward's going to pay off, and you guys see that reward, which is huge. And then so many other lessons I've learned from you guys today. You guys highlighted a lot of things. Is there any last words of wisdom, anything you guys want to share with our listeners?
I guess just going off what you just said quickly, like we've pivoted multiple times, right? When we had the triplexes, we pivoted to syndications. Then we thought we were going to do that 4 months in, do everything. Then we pivoted just to investor relations. It's not going to be a linear growth. You're going to jump into this business or any business or really anything in life, I guess. and there's going to be ups and downs, and the downs feel awful and the ups don't feel as good as you thought they would. But the more, eventually you're going to have enough ups where you're going to have, you look back and be like, wow, I can't believe I'm at, the top of this hill right now. So it's not going to be linear. Don't let one thing, hold you back. Just be persistent through it, and you'll get to where you need to be. It won't be as quick as you want it to be either, but eventually you will get there.
And if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I am so lucky to have Ryan as a business partner, with somebody who has the same mindset as me, somebody who wants to put in the same work ethic as me. And, not everybody's going to have a Ryan, but there is a partner out there for everybody. And this is a relationship game. It's a teamwork game. The networking is for finding those partners, right? You need to find somebody who's good at the things that you're not good at, and work together to create the great domino. I'm really good at talking to people. I'm not great with numbers. Ryan's not good with talking to people. He's great with numbers. Now, after a year into it, Ryan sounds like a professional salesman, right? And it's just, I mean, I'm not as there with the numbers yet, so I'm not going to toot my own horn there. But it's just, watching the growth working with a partnership it's fantastic, but it's really the ultimate key to success. Form those partnerships, put in the effort, and work together.
Yeah. Amen to that. Awesome. Well, listeners, I hope you guys learned something. If you didn't, re-listen to this, because I'm sure there's something you take away, and you might have just dozed off. So re-listen to this episode. And if you guys want to connect with them, which I highly suggest, connect with Ryan and Lucas. Their information is in the show notes, so connect with them, TR Capital Partners. And with that, we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.